Chosen one. Stop right there. Don't you dare scroll past this moment. What if I told you that the reason you felt different your entire life, the reason you've carried burdens that weren't yours to carry, the reason you felt invisible in crowded rooms, yet somehow watched over by unseen eyes? What if all of that wasn't random suffering, but divine marking? What if every betrayal that cut deeper than it should have, every closed door that made no logical sense, every night you've whispered, "God, have you forgotten me?" was actually heaven's way of preparing you for something so sacred, so urgent, that it couldn't wait another day? Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. You didn't find this message. This message hunted you down. Right now, as these words hit your spirit, angels are positioning themselves around this moment, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie you've believed about your identity, your purpose, and why your life has felt like a spiritual battleground since the day you were born. You see, chosen one, you've been living like a lighthouse battered by storms that would have destroyed others, yet somehow still standing, still shining, still guiding souls through darkness, even when your own light flickered. But what you didn't know is this: lighthouses aren't built in calm waters. They're positioned precisely where the storms are fiercest, because that's where the rescue is most needed. Your pain wasn't punishment, it was positioning. For too long, you've wondered why your prayers seem to echo in empty rooms, while others appeared to walk straight into their blessings. You've questioned if God really sees you, really knows your name, really remembers the promises he whispered to your heart in those sacred moments when no one else was listening. But what if I told you that every unanswered prayer was actually answered, just not in the way you expected? What if God's silence wasn't abandonment, but divine strategy? What if he's been preparing you, refining you, marking you for an assignment so critical that the enemy has been working overtime to keep you confused about who you really are? Before I go deeper into this prophetic word, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. If your spirit is already stirring, if something deep inside you just whispered, "This is for me," write in the comments right now, "I'm listening, Lord." Let heaven see your agreement, because what happens in the next hour will explain exactly why your life has felt the way it has. This isn't coincidence, chosen one. This is divine appointment. And the message God has for you, it can't wait. Have you ever wondered why you woke up this morning feeling restless? Why something in your spirit has been stirring for weeks, maybe months, like a deep current pulling you towards something you can't quite name? Why, in the middle of your ordinary Tuesday, you felt an extraordinary pull to stop what you were doing and listen? Here's what I need you to understand, chosen one. You didn't stumble across this message while mindlessly scrolling through your phone. This wasn't the algorithm playing games with your feed. This was heaven orchestrating a divine interruption in your life, because God has been trying to get your attention. And today, this very moment, he decided to break through every distraction, every doubt, every wall you've built around your heart. Let me tell you about a young boy named Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 3 paints a picture that will shake you to your core. Samuel was lying in the temple of the Lord, in the ordinary darkness of an ordinary night, when something extraordinary happened. God called his name, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Samuel, Samuel. Each time this boy ran to his mentor Eli, thinking it was the old priest calling him, but Eli hadn't said a word. Finally, Eli realized what was happening and told Samuel, "Go lie down, and if he calls you again, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" Here's the part that should terrify and thrill you at the same time. Samuel wasn't expecting God to speak. He wasn't fasting for 40 days. He wasn't on some mountaintop retreat. He was simply lying down in the presence of the Lord when heaven decided it was time to commission him for his destiny. Sound familiar? How many times in recent weeks have you felt like someone was calling your name in the quiet moments? How many times have you had that strange sensation that you're being watched over, guided, prepared for something bigger than your current circumstances? You see, dear one, God doesn't always speak through burning bushes and parted seas. Most of the time, he speaks through divine interruptions in ordinary moments. He takes your regular Tuesday afternoon and turns it into a holy encounter. He takes your casual scroll through social media and transforms it into a sacred appointment. But here's where it gets dangerous. Here's where most people miss their moment. Moses was walking past that burning bush in Exodus chapter 3, doing what he did every day, tending sheep in the wilderness. He could have glanced at the bush and kept walking. He could have thought, "That's strange," and moved on with his routine. But the Bible says he turned aside to see this great sight. That decision to turn aside changed the course of human history. What's your burning bush? What has God placed in your path that you've been walking past for weeks, months, maybe even years? What recurring thought keeps surfacing in your mind that you keep dismissing as coincidence? What door keeps appearing that you keep closing because it doesn't fit your comfortable plans? Maybe it's that nagging feeling that you're called to something greater than your current situation. Maybe it's that verse that keeps showing up in your devotions, your conversations, your dreams. Maybe it's that person who keeps coming to mind, the one you're supposed to call, forgive, or reach out to. Maybe it's that dream you buried 20 years ago that suddenly won't leave you alone. I'm telling you right now, chosen one, that restlessness in your spirit isn't anxiety, it's anticipation. It's not worry, it's warning. Heaven is trying to position you for something so significant that the enemy has been working overtime to keep you distracted, discouraged, and deaf to God's voice. But today, God is breaking through. Today, he's turning up the volume. Today, he's making sure that every excuse you've made, every reason you've given yourself to ignore his call, every fear that's kept you playing small, all of it crumbles under the weight of his undeniable presence. Jesus said in John 10:27, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Not my sheep might hear my voice if they're spiritual enough. Not my sheep will hear my voice someday when they get their act together." He said, "My sheep hear my voice." Present tense, active, ongoing. The question isn't whether God is speaking to you. The question is whether you're finally ready to stop making excuses and start listening. Because here's the sobering truth that should wake you up from spiritual slumber. God's voice comes with an expiration date. His calls are not infinite. His patience, while long-suffering, is not endless. The children of Israel wandered in the wilderness for 40 years because they heard God's voice but hardened their hearts. They had opportunity after opportunity to enter their promised land, but they chose fear over faith, comfort over calling, the familiar over the miraculous. Don't be like them. Don't let this moment pass by like so many others. Don't convince yourself that you'll respond to God's call tomorrow, next week, next year, when you feel more ready, more qualified, more spiritual. Samuel didn't wait until he was older and wiser. Moses didn't wait until he felt confident in his speaking ability. David didn't wait until he was tall enough to face Goliath. They responded in their imperfection, in their ordinariness, in their humanity. And God used them to shake nations. Type your city and the word ready in the comments right now. Let's see where God's remnant is rising. Let's see who's finally ready to stop walking past their burning bush and turn aside to see what the Almighty is revealing. But I must warn you about what happens when heaven decides to interrupt your life with a divine assignment that will change everything you thought you knew about your purpose, your calling, and your destiny. Dear chosen one, let me tell you something that will shake you to your very core. What you've been calling your greatest failures, your deepest wounds, your most humiliating defeats, they weren't accidents, they were appointments, divine appointments. You see, there's something the enemy of your soul desperately doesn't want you to discover. He didn't attack you because of your past. He attacked you because of your future. Hell saw what heaven had written over your life before you took your first breath, and it terrified him. Think about this. Why would darkness waste its ammunition on someone ordinary? Why would the forces of hell mobilize against someone insignificant? The very fact that you've been under assault your entire life is proof, undeniable proof, that you carry something they fear. Let me show you something in Scripture that will blow your mind. Look at David, forgotten by his own father when the prophet came looking for the next king. While his brothers stood tall and impressive, David was in the fields with sheep, invisible to everyone except God. 1 Samuel 16:11 tells us Jesse didn't even bother to call him. Yet God said to Samuel, "Rise and anoint him. This is the one." David was marked before anyone knew his name. Joseph thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, forgotten in prison for years. Genesis 37:3 tells us his father loved him more than his other sons, and that love became a target. Every betrayal, every injustice, every moment of abandonment was preparing him for a palace he couldn't even imagine. Joseph was marked before he understood his destiny. Esther, an orphan girl who lost her parents, hidden away in a foreign land, forced into a beauty contest she never wanted to enter. Yet the Bible says in Esther 4:14, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Her pain wasn't punishment, it was positioning. Esther was marked before she wore a crown. Do you see the pattern? Do you understand what I'm showing you? God's chosen ones are always marked in the hidden places, shaped in the secret chambers, prepared in the wilderness before they ever step into their calling. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been living your entire life thinking you were cursed when you were actually chosen. You've been interpreting your struggles as evidence of God's displeasure when they were actually evidence of His selection. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. Why do you think your life has been harder than most? Why have you faced rejections that made no sense? Why have doors slammed shut just when breakthrough seemed within reach? Why have people you trusted betrayed you at your most vulnerable moments? Because you were marked, chosen one. Marked for something so significant that hell had to try to stop you before you ever figured out who you really are. Every rejection you faced was protecting you from settling for less than God's best. Every delay was divine timing, keeping you from moving too fast into something you weren't ready to handle. Every betrayal was removing people from your life who would have contaminated your calling. You thought you were being punished. You were actually being prepared. But let me tell you what really happened in the invisible realm while you were crying, while you were questioning, while you were wondering if God had forgotten your address. Angels were taking notes. Heaven was keeping records. And the Most High God was saying, "Watch this one. See how they respond when everything falls apart. See if they'll still worship in the valley. See if they'll still trust when they can't trace my hand." And you did. Through every storm, every setback, every season of silence, you kept getting back up. You kept believing. You kept pressing forward when lesser souls would have given up. That wasn't human determination, beloved. That was divine DNA. That was the mark of the chosen burning in your bones, refusing to let you quit, refusing to let you settle, refusing to let you accept defeat as final. Isaiah 43:1 declares something that will change how you see everything that's happened to you. "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." Called you by name, not called you by your circumstances, not called you by your mistakes, not called you by what others said about you. He called you by the name He gave you before the foundation of the world. You are His. You belong to the King of Kings. And everything that tried to destroy you was actually refining you, preparing you, marking you for a purpose so magnificent that it required decades of preparation. But here's what I need you to understand, and this is urgent. There's a three-part spiritual signature that every chosen one carries, a divine marking system that confirms beyond any doubt that you've been selected for kingdom assignment. and I'm about to reveal exactly what that signature looks like in your life. When you recognize these 3 marks in your own story, everything will make sense. Every painful chapter will suddenly fit into a larger narrative. Every wound will be revealed as preparation for a specific calling. Are you ready to discover the spiritual signature that's been hidden in your life all along? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Right now, as you're hearing my voice, I want you to notice something. How many times have you been interrupted in the last hour? How many notifications have buzzed? How many thoughts have raced through your mind about tomorrow's doctor's appointment, last week's argument with your adult child, or next month's bills? You've been living in a hurricane of noise, haven't you? And somewhere in that chaos, you've lost the ability to hear the one voice that matters most. Psalm 46:10 cuts through the static with divine authority. Be still and know that I am God. But here's what most people miss. This isn't a suggestion, it's a battle strategy. Those 2 words, be still in Hebrew, literally mean cease striving, let go, surrender. God isn't asking you to take a little break. He's commanding you to stop fighting so hard that you miss his rescue. Let me paint you a picture that might sting with familiarity. You wake up at 5:30 a.m. and before your feet hit the floor, your mind is already spinning. The news blares from the kitchen. Television wars, inflation, politics. Your phone buzzes with family drama. Your neighbor's dog won't stop barking. The pharmacy calls about your prescription. Your daughter texts about her marriage problems. The church committee needs an answer about volunteering. By noon, you're spiritually exhausted, emotionally drained, and you haven't heard one clear word from God all day. Sound familiar? Here's the shocking truth. The enemy doesn't have to destroy you to defeat you. He just has to keep you distracted enough that you can't hear your orders from heaven. You've been tuned to the wrong frequency, dear one. Think about the old radio in your kitchen, the one that crackles with static when the weather's bad. You know the station is broadcasting, but you can't make out the words through all that interference. You fiddle with the dial, trying to find that sweet spot where the signal comes in crystal clear. That's exactly what's happened to your spiritual hearing. God's been broadcasting on his frequency all along, but your life has been filled with so much static worry, noise, rushing, striving, that his voice gets drowned out by the interference. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Stillness isn't passivity. Stillness is warfare. When you choose to be still, you're not giving up, you're gearing up. You're positioning yourself to receive divine intelligence that the noisy, the rushed, the distracted will never access. Moses didn't receive the 10 Commandments in the marketplace. He climbed Mount Sinai and spent 40 days in the stillness of God's presence. Elijah didn't hear God's voice in the earthquake or the fire. He heard it in the still, small voice that came after the noise died down. Jesus himself regularly withdrew from the crowds to lonely places to pray. Why? Because breakthrough doesn't come to the busy. Revelation doesn't visit the restless. Divine direction doesn't download to the distracted. You want to know why your prayers feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling? Why God's promises seem delayed? Why you feel spiritually dry even though you're reading your Bible and attending church? It's because you've been trying to hear heaven's whispers over hell's racket. But right now, this very moment, God is calling you into sacred stillness. Not the stillness of defeat, but the stillness of strategy. The kind of stillness that says, I'm done trying to figure this out on my own. I'm done rushing towards solutions that only create more problems. I'm positioning myself to hear what you're saying, Lord, because your voice carries the answer to everything that's been keeping me awake at night. Here's what happens when you master the weapon of stillness. Your discernment sharpens, your anxiety dissolves, your faith activates. Your spiritual ears tune into frequencies that the world can't jam. You begin to hear not just what God is saying about your situation, but what he's been trying to tell you about your identity, your purpose, your destiny. The devil knows that 5 minutes of true stillness in God's presence is more dangerous to his kingdom than 5 hours of religious activity. That's why he'll do everything he can to keep you moving, scrolling, worrying, planning, fixing, organizing anything to prevent you from being still long enough to hear the voice that changes everything. Some of you right now are fighting the urge to check your phone. Others are thinking about what you need to do after this video ends. That restlessness you feel, that's not ADHD. That's spiritual resistance to the very thing your soul is desperate for: uninterrupted communion with your Creator. But if you'll lean in right now, if you'll let these words settle deep into the chambers of your heart, if you'll choose stillness over the symphony of distractions that have been drowning out heaven's voice, something supernatural is about to happen. God is about to tune your spiritual frequency to His station, and when that happens, the static clears, the interference stops, and you'll hear Him with a clarity that will leave you wondering how you ever lived without it. Right now, before we go any further, I need you to do something. I need you to whisper out loud, yes, out loud, these 4 words. Speak, Lord, I'm listening. Say it. Let heaven hear your surrender to stillness, because what God is about to reveal next will require every ounce of spiritual clarity you can access. Listen to me carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal will explain everything. Every strange feeling you've carried since childhood. Every moment you felt like an outsider in your own family. Every time someone looked at you with confusion and said, "There's something different about you." You've been marked, not cursed marked. And tonight, you're going to understand exactly what that means. There are 3 unmistakable signs that heaven has placed its signature on your soul. 3 marks that distinguish the chosen from the crowd. And if you recognize even one of these in your life, everything starts to make sense. The first mark: spiritual sensitivity. You feel things others don't feel. You walk into rooms and immediately sense the spiritual temperature. When someone's lying, your spirit recoils before your mind catches up. When tragedy is coming, you feel it in your bones days before it happens. Your family called you too sensitive. Your friends said you were overthinking everything. But what they couldn't understand is that God rewired your spiritual antenna to pick up frequencies from another realm. Think about Elisha in 2 Kings chapter 6. The king of Syria was planning secret attacks against Israel, but every time he made a move, the prophet knew. The frustrated king thought there was a spy in his ranks, but his servant told him the truth. Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the very words you speak in your bedroom. That's you, dear one. You've been given ears to hear what heaven whispers and eyes to see what hell tries to hide. But here's what breaks my heart: you've been apologizing for this gift your entire life. You've dulled your discernment to make others comfortable. You've ignored your spiritual alarms to fit in with people who can't even hear the sirens going off around them. Stop dimming your light to accommodate their darkness. When Jesus walked into the temple and overturned the money changers' tables, he wasn't having an emotional breakdown. He was responding to spiritual sensitivity. He felt what others couldn't feel: the desecration of his Father's house. Your sensitivity isn't a weakness, it's a weapon. It's heaven's early warning system installed in your spirit to protect not just you, but everyone God has assigned to your influence. The second mark: innocent recognition. Children are drawn to you like metal to a magnet. Babies stop crying when you hold them. Animals sense something in your presence that makes them calm, peaceful, at rest. You've noticed this your whole life, haven't you? How little ones who barely know you will climb into your lap while they shy away from others. How even the toughest, most rebellious teenagers somehow soften around you without understanding why. This isn't coincidence. This is confirmation. In Matthew 19, when the disciples tried to keep children away from Jesus, he rebuked them, saying, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Children and animals operate on pure spiritual instinct. They haven't learned to ignore what their spirits perceive. When they're drawn to you, they're responding to the presence of heaven that you carry, whether you realize it or not. But the enemy has tried to make you doubt this gift. He's whispered that you're just imagining things, that it's all in your head, because he knows that when you fully embrace the authority that innocent recognition confirms, you become dangerous to his kingdom. Every time a child chooses your lap over everyone else in the room, that's heaven giving you evidence of your calling. Every time an animal calms in your presence, that's creation itself testifying to the anointing you carry. The third mark, creative authority. Your thoughts become reality faster than most people's actions. Your prayers don't just reach heaven, they move heaven. When you speak blessing over someone, they flourish. When you declare breakthrough, barriers start cracking. You've seen it happen so many times you've stopped calling it coincidence. You think about someone you haven't spoken to in years, and they call that same week. You pray for provision, and opportunities appear from nowhere. You speak life over a situation, and suddenly everything shifts. This is what Genesis 1:27 means when it says, "You were created in God's image." You don't just believe in a creative God, you are a creative being. Your words carry weight because they flow from a spirit connected to the word that spoke worlds into existence. But here's the terrifying truth the enemy doesn't want you to understand. You've been operating at about 10% of your spiritual capacity. You've been whispering when heaven gave you authority to decree. You've been suggesting when God equipped you to command. Elijah didn't request rain, he declared it. Moses didn't ask the Red Sea to consider parting, he commanded it to divide. Jesus didn't beg the storm to calm down, he told it to be still. When you finally step into the fullness of your creative authority, when you stop apologizing for the power God placed in your voice, the very atmosphere around your life will shift. The aha moment. This is why your life has never made sense to others. Chosen one. This is why people look at you with that puzzled expression, like they're trying to solve a riddle they can't quite figure out. This is why you felt like a stranger in your own skin, like you were born for something bigger than what this world offers. You carry heaven's signature. Every mark I've described, the spiritual sensitivity that makes you feel everything deeper, the innocent recognition that draws pure hearts to your presence, the creative authority that turns your thoughts into reality. These aren't accidents. These aren't personality quirks. These are divine installations, supernatural equipment, heaven's way of saying, "This one belongs to me." But carrying these marks comes with a responsibility that most people never understand. You weren't marked for comfort. You weren't chosen for ease. You were selected for assignment. And that assignment, the very reason heaven placed these marks on your soul, is about to be revealed in ways that will take your breath away. Listen to me, chosen one. There's a story buried in Joshua chapter 6 that will shatter every excuse you've been making about why your breakthrough hasn't come. It's the story of walls that seemed impossible until they weren't. Picture this. The children of Israel standing before the massive walls of Jericho. These weren't ordinary walls, beloved. Archaeological evidence shows they were 12 feet thick and 20 feet high. Imagine standing at the base of a 2-story building made entirely of stone, stretching as far as your eyes could see. For 40 years, the Israelites had wandered in circles. 40 years of feeling forgotten, overlooked, like God had lost their address. Sound familiar? But God didn't bring them to Jericho to admire the architecture. He brought them there to demonstrate something that would echo through eternity. What looks permanent to man is temporary to God. Now here's where it gets personal. What are the walls in your life right now? Be honest with yourself. What towering obstacle has been mocking you day after day, year after year, making you feel small, powerless, defeated? Maybe it's that financial mountain that seems to grow bigger every month. You're 73 years old and you're still counting pennies at the grocery store, wondering if you'll have enough for your medications. That's your Jericho wall. Maybe it's the wall of family division. Your children haven't spoken to you in months. Your grandchildren don't know your voice anymore. Thanksgiving dinner is silent because the chairs around your table are empty. That's your Jericho wall. Or perhaps it's the wall of fear that's been whispering lies in your ear for decades. You're too old. You missed your chance. God's done with people like you. Every morning you wake up feeling invisible, irrelevant, like your best days are buried in yesterday's memories. That wall has convinced you to shrink back when God is calling you to step forward. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know about your Jericho moment. God has been preparing you for this exact season. Every year you've survived, every storm you've weathered, every night you've cried yourself to sleep, it was all building toward this moment when heaven says, enough is enough. Let me tell you what happened in Joshua 6-3. God gave them the strangest military strategy in human history. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Can you imagine? Professional soldiers, battle-hardened warriors, reduced to walking in circles like they were on some spiritual treadmill. For 6 days, they marched. 6 days of looking foolish. 6 days of the enemy laughing from the walls. 6 days of wondering if they'd heard God correctly. The walls didn't crack. They didn't shake. They didn't even show a single stress fracture. But here's the mystery. Something was happening in the invisible realm. Every step was loosening the foundations. Every lap was creating spiritual pressure. Every march was building toward a moment of supernatural collapse. How long have you been marching around your walls? How many years have you been praying the same prayers, believing for the same breakthrough, standing on the same promises? The enemy wants you to believe that if it hasn't happened by now, it never will. He wants you to think that God forgot about your situation, that your faith was naive, that you should just accept your limitations and settle for less. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Listen carefully. Your walls aren't getting stronger, they're getting weaker. Every prayer you've prayed has been chipping away at the foundation. Every tear you've cried has been recorded in heaven's books. Every time you got back up when life knocked you down, you were marching another lap around your Jericho. But here comes the 7th day. Joshua 6-4 records it. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times, with the priests blowing the trumpets. 7, the number of completion, the number of divine perfection, the number that signals the end of one season and the explosive beginning of another. And then came the moment that changed everything. Verse 20. When the trumpets sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. They didn't push it down. They didn't chip away at it brick by brick. They shouted, and supernatural power did what human effort never could. Your shout is coming, chosen one. Your 7th day is approaching faster than you think. But here's what you need to understand. The shout isn't one of desperation, it's one of declaration. It's not begging God to do something. It's agreeing with what He's already decided to do. Those financial walls that have imprisoned your family for generations, the 7th day is here. That isolation that's made you feel forgotten and overlooked. Your breakthrough is in the sound of your voice aligned with heaven's decree. Those health battles that have stolen your strength and your hope, God is about to demonstrate that what's impossible with man is inevitable with Him. But you have to be willing to look foolish to the world. You have to be willing to march when others are running. You have to be willing to shout when your circumstances are screaming the opposite. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, something is shifting in the spiritual atmosphere over your life. The same God who brought down Jericho's walls is positioning Himself to bring down yours. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. If you believe, truly believe that your walls are coming down, that your 7th day has arrived, that your breakthrough is imminent, then I need you to do something right now. Type today's date in the comments below. Let that date become your spiritual timestamp, your seal of faith, your agreement with heaven that what seemed permanent is about to become history. Because when God decides it's time for your walls to fall, nothing in hell can keep them standing. But will you be ready to walk through the rubble into the promised land He's prepared for you? But wait, chosen one. If you think what I just revealed was the complete picture, you're mistaken. What I shared with you was merely the foundation, the scaffolding, the preparation for what heaven is about to download into your spirit right now. You see, those 3 marks I spoke of, your sensitivity, your recognition, your creative authority, they weren't just identification badges. They were seeds. And seeds, beloved, are meant to grow into something far more powerful than their original form. Let me ask you something that's going to shake you to your core. What if everything you've experienced up until this moment was just basic training? What if the tears you've cried, the battles you've fought, the nights you've spent on your knees were all preparation for an assignment so massive that heaven had to spend decades building your spiritual capacity to handle it? Moses didn't stop at the Red Sea. That miraculous parting of waters wasn't his graduation, it was his orientation. After that supernatural victory, he still had to lead 2 million complaining Israelites through 40 years of wilderness. The real test wasn't the miracle. The real test was what came after the miracle. David didn't retire after killing Goliath. That giant-slaying moment that made his name famous wasn't the end of his story. It was the beginning of his real trials. He still had to dodge Saul's spears for years, hiding in caves, running for his life, while carrying the anointing of a king but living like a fugitive. Do you see the pattern? The breakthrough isn't the destination, it's the doorway. This is not the end. This is not the end. This is the turning point where your calling shifts from personal to generational. Let me reveal what's really happening to those 3 marks burning inside you. Your spiritual sensitivity isn't just making you different, it's evolving into supernatural foresight. That ability to feel what others can't feel is transforming into the capacity to see what's coming before it arrives. You're being upgraded from sensing the present to discerning the future. God is turning your emotional radar into prophetic vision. You won't just feel the storm approaching, you'll know exactly when it will hit and who needs to be warned. That innocent recognition you've carried the way people have always opened up to you, trusted you with their secrets, felt safe in your presence. It's no longer just about comfort. It's becoming atmospheric authority. When you walk into a room, the spiritual climate changes. Demons grow restless. Angels take notice. Your very presence begins to shift the environment from darkness to light, from chaos to peace, from hopelessness to possibility. You're becoming a walking sanctuary, a mobile holy ground, and that creative authority, those ideas that drop into your spirit, those solutions that seem to come from nowhere, those moments when you speak and dead things come alive, it's expanding beyond your lifetime. You're moving into generational impact. What flows through you now won't just change your circumstances, it will rewrite your family's entire future. Your children's children will inherit blessings you're about to release. Your obedience today becomes their inheritance tomorrow. But here's what's going to terrify hell and activate heaven. You're not being prepared for a small, comfortable ministry. You're being weaponized for warfare that most believers can't even imagine. The enemy has been studying you for decades. He's watched every tear you've shed, catalogued every weakness you've exposed, documented every time you've stumbled. He thought he was gathering intelligence for your destruction. But what he didn't realize is that God was allowing him to see just enough to give you the advantage. You know your enemy's playbook because you've survived his attacks. You recognize his voice because you've heard his lies. You can identify his tactics because you've endured his strategies. Every assault that didn't kill you made you more dangerous to his kingdom. Right now, as I speak these words, there's a shifting happening in the spiritual realm. The training wheels are coming off. The preparation phase is ending. The deployment is beginning. Some of you are sitting there thinking, but I'm 70 years old. I'm 80. My best years are behind me. Stop that lie right there. Abraham was 99 when God gave him Isaac. Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah in the temple. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. You've been seasoned by time, refined by fire, and prepared by pressure. The world looks at your wrinkles and sees decline. Heaven looks at your scars and sees credentials. Society counts your years and says you're running out of time. God counts your experiences and says you're finally ready for what he's been preparing. This is not the end. This is not the end. This is the turning point where everything you've learned in the secret place gets revealed in the public square. But I need to warn you about something that's about to happen. The moment you step into this next level of your calling, everything around you will be tested. Relationships that seemed solid will be shaken. Finances that seemed stable will be challenged. Health that seemed strong will be examined. This isn't punishment, it's purification. God is removing everything that would hinder what He's about to do through you. The enemy is about to throw everything he has at you because he knows what you're carrying. But here's what he doesn't know. Every attack will only confirm that you're on the right path. Every resistance will only prove that you're carrying something he desperately wants to stop. I need you to do something right now. Get your journal. Write down one thing, just one thing that God has spoken to your heart during this message. Don't overthink it. Don't analyze it. Just write what's burning in your spirit, because you're going to need it in the days ahead when doubt tries to convince you that none of this was real. This is not the end. This is not the end. This is the awakening of something so powerful that the very gates of hell will tremble at your approach. But are you ready for what comes next? Because what I'm about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about your final assignment on this earth. But first, chosen one, we need to talk about something that's been eating at your soul for years. Something you've whispered about in the dark corners of your bedroom when no one else could hear. Something that's made you question everything you thought you believed about God's goodness. Your desert season. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That barren, lifeless stretch of years where your prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling like rubber balls. Where you watched everyone around you walk into their promised land while you wandered in circles, carrying the same burdens, fighting the same battles, crying the same tears. Maybe it started with that diagnosis the doctor delivered with clinical coldness 20 years ago. Maybe it was the day your spouse looked you in the eye and said those words that shattered your world. I don't love you anymore. Maybe it was watching your retirement savings evaporate in 2008, or burying your dreams alongside someone you loved more than your own life. Here's what nobody told you about the desert. It wasn't designed to destroy you. It was designed to reveal you. Listen to me carefully, dear one. Every single day you've spent feeling forgotten. Every night you've cried yourself to sleep, wondering if God even remembers your name. Every moment you felt like you're invisible to heaven itself. That wasn't abandonment. That was assignment. You see, the enemy has been whispering lies in your ear for decades. He's told you that your suffering means God doesn't love you, that your unanswered prayers are proof He's moved on to more worthy vessels, that your financial struggles, your health battles, your family chaos are evidence that you've somehow fallen out of favor with the Almighty. Those are lies straight from the pit of hell. The truth? God led you into that wilderness on purpose. Just like He led Israel through 40 years of desert wandering, not because He forgot them, but because He was preparing them for something they couldn't handle in their current state. Deuteronomy 8:2 tells us exactly why. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep His commands. Did you catch that? God led them there intentionally, to humble them, to test them, to strip away everything they thought they needed so they could discover that all they really needed was Him. Your desert wasn't punishment, chosen one. It was purification. Think about this. What kind of metal becomes strongest? The kind that's been through the hottest fire. What kind of diamond shines brightest? The one that's endured the most pressure. What kind of wine tastes richest? The one that's been aged longest in the darkness. You've been in the refining fire, dear one, and those sandstorms that nearly buried you alive. They weren't trying to kill you. They were stripping away everything that couldn't go with you into your next season. That prideful self-reliance, gone. That need to control every outcome, burned away. That desperate clinging to people and things that were never meant to be your source, blown away like chaff in the wind. You are not abandoned. You are not forsaken. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are not forsaken. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are not forsaken. You are not forgotten. Let those words sink into the deepest places of your heart where the enemy has been planting doubt. You haven't been discarded, chosen one. You've been developed. Every tear you've cried has been collected in heaven's bottles. Every prayer you've whispered has been recorded in eternal archives. Every moment you felt alone, the Father has been right there, holding you together when everything else was falling apart. But here's what's going to shock you. Your wilderness years weren't just about what God was taking away from you. They were about what He was putting inside you. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Every financial struggle taught you dependence. Every health scare taught you that your strength doesn't come from your body, it comes from your spirit. Every loss taught you that what can be taken was never really yours to begin with. You thought the desert was empty, but it was actually full of lessons you could only learn in the silence, full of strength you could only build in the struggle, full of faith you could only forge in the fire. And now, after all these years of wondering why, God is ready to show you what He's been building in you through it all. Right now, I want you to do something. Stop thinking about this message as just another sermon you're watching on your phone or computer. This is a sacred moment. This is your burning bush. This is heaven breaking through to speak directly to your spirit. Place your hand on your heart right now. Feel it beating. That rhythm isn't just blood pumping through your veins. That's the sound of a warrior who survived what was meant to destroy them. That's the heartbeat of someone who walked through hell and came out singing. Now say these words out loud, wherever you are. Lord, I give you my wilderness. Say it again. Lord, I give you my wilderness. One more time, with everything in you. Lord, I give you my wilderness. Because, chosen one, what you're about to discover next will explain why God kept you in the desert just long enough to kill everything in you that would have corrupted what He's about to release through you. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The reason your life has been harder than most isn't because you're cursed, it's because you're called. And the enemy knows it. You've been asking God, why me? Why does everything I touch seem to face resistance? Why do my prayers take longer to answer? Why does my path feel like I'm swimming upstream while everyone else floats downstream? Here's the truth that will shake you to your core. Opposition is not evidence of God's absence. Opposition is evidence of your assignment. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on empty vessels. He doesn't deploy his best demons against people who pose no threat to his kingdom. But you've been in his crosshairs since the day you were born, because hell saw something in you that you're just now beginning to remember. Think about it. When was the last time you had a season of true peace? When was the last time multiple areas of your life flourished simultaneously without some crisis lurking around the corner? You've been living under spiritual siege, and you thought it was just bad luck. But here's what the enemy never counted on. Every attack that was meant to destroy you actually prepared you. Every battle that should have broken you actually built you. Every storm that tried to drown you was actually driving you toward your divine destination. Picture this: a ship caught in a violent storm at sea. The captain isn't fighting the wind to stay where he is. He's using that very wind to push him where he needs to go. The storm isn't his enemy, it's his propulsion. Those hurricane-force winds that feel like they're tearing you apart. They're not punishment, they're positioning. You see, God uses the very thing the enemy sends to destroy you as the force that delivers you to your destiny. The betrayal that broke your heart? It moved you away from people who would have held you back. The financial crisis that humbled you? It taught you to depend on heaven's economy, not Wall Street's promises. The health scare that terrified you. It reminded you that your days are numbered and your purpose is urgent. Look at the Apostle Paul. 2 Corinthians 11 records his resume of suffering. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. This man faced more opposition in a decade than most people face in a lifetime. But here's the mystery. Paul's greatest revelations came from his deepest struggles. His prison epistles, letters written from a Roman dungeon, became the theological foundation that transformed the world. Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, Philemon. These weren't written from a comfortable study with a cup of coffee and a fireplace. They were penned in chains, in darkness, in the place where the enemy thought he had silenced the gospel forever. Paul discovered something profound. The darker the prison, the brighter the revelation. The heavier the chains, the more powerful the message. The fiercer the opposition, the greater the anointing. Dear one, what if your current struggle isn't the end of your story? What if it's the womb where your greatest ministry is being birthed? What if the very thing that's trying to silence you is preparing to amplify your voice to a volume the world has never heard? You've been fighting battles you thought you were losing, but heaven sees differently. Every sleepless night you spent in prayer instead of despair, that was you winning. Every time you chose faith over fear when circumstances screamed otherwise, that was you conquering. Every moment you refused to curse God despite your pain, that was you proving that your allegiance cannot be purchased with comfort or stolen by suffering. But here's the urgency I need you to understand. The enemy's attacks are intensifying because your breakthrough is imminent. He knows his time is short. He knows that once you fully awaken to who you are, once you realize the authority you carry, once you understand the assignment heaven has tattooed on your soul, his reign of terror in your life is over. This is why the warfare has been so vicious lately. This is why multiple areas of your life have been under assault simultaneously. This is why it feels like hell itself has declared war on your peace of mind. The enemy isn't attacking your past, he's attacking your future. He's not trying to punish you for what you've done, he's trying to prevent what you're about to become. 1 Samuel 17:45 records David's declaration to Goliath. You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty. David understood something that stopped giants in their tracks. The battle belongs to the Lord, but the victory requires your participation. Right now, I need you to do something that will shift the spiritual atmosphere around your life. If you can stand, stand up. If you can't stand, lift your hands, look toward heaven, and declare with everything in you. The battle is the Lord's, and I am more than a conqueror through Christ who strengthens me. Say it until your spirit believes it. Declare it until the atmosphere shifts. Proclaim it until every demonic assignment against your life trembles at the sound of your voice, aligned with heaven's authority. Don't let go here, chosen one. The revelation is still unfolding. What I'm about to show you next will explain why God allowed the battle in the first place, and why your victory is not just certain, but already signed, sealed, and delivered in the courts of heaven. Listen carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shatter everything you thought you knew about your identity. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been walking through this world carrying a name that was given to you by human lips. Your birth certificate bears witness to what your parents decided to call you. Your social security card, your driver's license, your medical records, they all reflect the name that rolls off tongues when people address you. But what if I told you that's not your real name? What if I told you that while you were still being formed in your mother's womb, while your tiny fingers were taking shape and your heartbeat was finding its rhythm, the God of the universe was already calling you by a name so sacred, so powerful, so perfectly designed for your destiny that it could only be spoken by his mouth. Isaiah 62:2 declares with thunderous authority, you will be called by a new name that the mouth of the Lord will bestow, not will be given, will be bestowed, like a crown placed upon your head by the King himself. Dear one, you've spent decades wondering why you've never felt like you truly fit anywhere. Why family gatherings left you feeling like a stranger at your own table. Why even your closest relationships couldn't quite touch that deep, lonely place in your soul that ached for something you couldn't name. It's because you've been living under an alias your entire life. Think about it. When you were born, your parents looked at your tiny face and made their best guess. Maybe they named you after a grandparent, hoping you'd carry their strength. Maybe they chose something popular that year, wanting you to blend in. Maybe they picked something that sounded beautiful to their ears. But they were naming your flesh, not your spirit. God has been calling you by your true name since before time began, and your soul has been restless because it's been waiting to hear it spoken aloud. Every time you felt that strange stirring in your chest during worship, every moment you've sensed heaven leaning close, every whisper of, "There's something more," that's followed you through decades of ordinary days, that was your spirit, recognizing the sound of its true name being called from the throne room of eternity. Picture this with me. In heaven's archives, there's a sealed envelope with your name written on it in God's own handwriting. Not your earthly name, but the name that captures who you really are, what you were born to do, the very essence of your calling and purpose. For decades, that envelope has remained sealed, waiting for the appointed time. Today is that time. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, heaven's seal is breaking open. Angels are gathering around as your true identity is about to be revealed. The name that's been echoing through eternity is about to find its way to your ears. But here's what breaks my heart. Some of you have lived your entire lives believing the lies others spoke over you. You're nothing special. You'll never amount to anything. You're too old now. You missed your chance. Those weren't prophecies, those were projectiles aimed at your identity to keep you from ever discovering who you really are. The enemy has been working overtime to keep you confused about your true name because he knows something you're just beginning to remember. When you finally hear what God calls you, when you finally understand your true identity, you become dangerous to his kingdom. You see, your earthly name might be Mary or Robert or Elizabeth or James, but in the spirit realm, God has been calling you healer. He's been calling you restorer. He's been calling you bridge builder, chain breaker, light carrier, hope bringer. Every time life knocked you down and you got back up, God whispered, "That's my overcomer." Every time you chose forgiveness when bitterness would have been easier, he smiled and said, "There's my peacemaker." Every time you held on to faith when everything around you was falling apart, heaven declared, "Behold, my faithful one." But you couldn't hear it because the noise of this world, the voices of limitation, the echoes of past failures were drowning out the sound of your true name. Not anymore. I want you to do something right now that might feel uncomfortable, but I need you to trust me. I want you to close your eyes. Right there, wherever you're sitting, whatever room you're in, just close your eyes and quiet everything else around you. Listen past the sound of my voice. Listen past the noise in your head. Listen past the doubts that are already trying to convince you this is foolish. What is God calling you right now? What name is he whispering over your spirit? Is he calling you healer because you've been wounded and learned how to help others mend? Is he calling you builder because he's about to use your hands to construct something that will last beyond your lifetime? Is he calling you intercessor because your prayers have been moving mountains even when you thought no one was listening? Your spirit knows. That stirring in your chest, that sudden warmth, that inexplicable knowing, that's recognition. That's your soul finally hearing its true name after decades of silence. Some of you just heard warrior, others heard comforter. Some are hearing pioneer, guardian, voice, deliverer. Don't dismiss it. Don't analyze it. Don't let your mind talk you out of what your spirit just received. This is the moment everything changes. This is when you stop living as who the world said you were and start walking as who heaven declares you to be. Comment the name God is whispering to you right now. Don't think about it. Don't edit it. Just type what you heard. Let's flood this space with heaven's roll call. Let's create a symphony of true identities being declared across the earth. Because once you know your true name, you can never go back to living small again. But knowing your name is just the beginning. What God is about to reveal next will show you exactly why you had to wait until now to hear it. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. We've journeyed through revelation tonight. You've discovered who you are. You've felt the stirring of recognition in your spirit. You've seen the fingerprints of God on every season of your life. But here's where most people make the fatal mistake. They stop at revelation and never step into activation. You think knowing you're chosen is the destination, number. It's the starting line. The enemy's greatest victory isn't convincing you that you're worthless. It's convincing you that your calling can wait until tomorrow, that you can sit on this word, that you can tuck this revelation away like a precious keepsake and admire it from time to time without ever acting on it. But hear me clearly. A calling without movement becomes a coffin. A gift without expression becomes a grave. And chosen ones who refuse to move become monuments to wasted purpose. Look at the parable of the talents in Matthew 25. The servant who buried his talent wasn't evil. He was careful. He wasn't rebellious. He was afraid. But what did the master call him? Wicked and lazy. Why? Because he treated his assignment like a possession instead of a responsibility. Your calling isn't jewelry to admire, it's a torch to carry. And right now, at this very moment, that torch is burning in your hands. The question that will determine your eternal legacy is this: will you carry it forward, or will you let it die with you? Think about this soberly. You are part of a sacred relay that began with Abraham, passed through Moses, blazed through David, and roared to life in Jesus Christ. Every generation of the faithful has carried this flame forward, passing it to the next runners in this eternal race. Saints who came before you, your grandmother who prayed on her knees, your grandfather who worked 3 jobs but never missed church, the faithful who endured persecution so you could sit freely in your living room and hear God's word. They all carried their portion of this divine fire. They didn't carry it so it could die with them. They carried it so it could reach you. And now you're holding what they died protecting. But here's what's going to devastate you if you truly understand it. There are people in your sphere, in your family, your neighborhood, your workplace who are dying of spiritual hunger, and you're sitting on the very bread that could feed them. There are souls drowning in despair who need to hear that they matter, that they're seen, that they're chosen too. And you who have been prepared through decades of trials, refined through years of faithfulness, equipped through seasons of testing, you have exactly what they need. What breaks God's heart isn't that the world is dark. What breaks his heart is that his lights refuse to shine. So here's your assignment. And I'm not suggesting I'm declaring with prophetic authority what heaven is demanding of you this week. First, identify the person God has placed on your heart. You know who it is. That family member who's been struggling, that neighbor who seems lost, that old friend who's been heavy on your mind. Stop making excuses. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Call them, text them, show up at their door. Tell them exactly what God told you tonight, that they're seen, they're loved, they're chosen. Second, step into the gift God has been developing in you. Whether it's encouragement, prayer, wisdom, or simple presence, use it. Stop hiding behind "I'm too old" or "I'm not qualified." Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver a nation. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your authority. This week, somewhere, somehow, exercise the spiritual gift God has been building in you through all these years. Third, become a carrier of hope everywhere you go. When you walk into the grocery store, carry peace. When you sit in that doctor's waiting room, carry faith. When you attend that family gathering, carry light. You don't have to preach sermons, just let the presence of God flow through your very being. Let people wonder what's different about you. Your mission isn't to save the world. Your mission is to light one candle. And when that candle lights another, and another lights another, suddenly the darkness starts retreating. But here's the urgency you must grasp. Time is shorter than you think, not just for the world, for you. Every day you hesitate is a day someone stays in darkness who could have been touched by your light. Every week you delay is a week that person continues to believe they're forgotten when your simple word could remind them they're chosen. The torch is in your hands, chosen one. The flame is burning bright. The relay is in motion. Who will you carry this light to before this week ends? What life will be different because you decided to move? What soul will discover they're chosen because you chose to speak. Don't let this moment pass. Take this message, share it with someone who needs to hear they're chosen too. Look them in the eye and say, "This is for you. You matter. You're seen. You're chosen. The assignment is clear. The time is now." The question is, will you run your leg of this eternal relay, or will you drop the torch? Heaven is watching. Your ancestors are cheering, and someone's salvation is waiting for your obedience. Move, chosen one, move. Chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. First, you are not an accident. Every struggle you've faced, every tear you've shed, every moment you felt forgotten, it was all preparation for this awakening. You were marked before your first breath, chosen before time began, and equipped through every trial to carry the light this world desperately needs. Second, your season of hiding is over. The very pain that made you feel disqualified has actually qualified you for your greatest assignment. Your scars aren't shame, they're your credentials. Your wounds aren't weaknesses, they're windows through which God's grace flows to heal others. Third, time is not your enemy, it's your ally. At 65, 70, 80, or beyond, you're not winding down, you're being wound up for your finest hour. Moses led a nation at 80, Sarah birthed promise at 90. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your authority. But hear me clearly, you are not walking this path alone. The same God who parted the Red Sea is still moving in your life today. The same power that raised Christ from the dead is working in you right now. Romans 8:31 declares, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" That's not just a verse, that's your reality. And beyond God's unwavering presence, you have a family right here. Look around these comments, see these hearts connecting, feel these spirits resonating. You found your tribe, thousands of chosen ones who understand your journey because they're walking it too. We're not just viewers on a screen. We're warriors in the spirit, bound together by the same calling, carrying the same light. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know who you really are, now that you understand why your life has felt different, now that you've received your assignment, what will you do with this revelation? Will you let it change you, or will you let fear convince you to stay the same? I want you to comment below and tell us what stirred in your heart tonight. Share which part of this message hit you the deepest. Ask us to pray for specific areas of your life. We will surround you with intercession. And if this word has ignited something in your spirit, share it with someone who needs to hear they're chosen too. There's someone in your life right now who feels exactly like you felt when this video started. Be the vessel that carries this hope to them. Before I release you, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of 5 decades walking with the Almighty. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire journey. Lord, you see their hearts, you know their struggles, you feel their pain, but you also see their potential, their calling, their destiny. Tonight, I speak life over every broken dream, healing over every wounded heart, and breakthrough over every closed door. Father, remove every chain of doubt that has held them captive. Silence every voice that has told them they're too old, too late, too damaged. Let them wake up tomorrow knowing they are loved beyond measure, chosen beyond understanding, and equipped beyond their wildest imagination. Give them courage to step into their calling, wisdom to navigate the path ahead, and supernatural strength for every challenge they'll face. Surround them with divine connections, people who will recognize their anointing and help them rise. Open doors no man can shut, close doors that lead to destruction. Lord, bless their families, their health, their finances. Pour out your favor in ways that make the world wonder what's different about them. Let them be walking testimonies of your goodness, living proof that you still move mountains for those who trust you. And Father, when fear whispers that they're not qualified, let your spirit thunder that they're more than qualified, they're anointed. When doubt suggests their time has passed, Let your love declare that their finest hour is now. When loneliness tries to convince them they're forgotten, surround them with the reality of your presence and this community of faith. In Jesus' mighty name, let every curse be broken, every limitation be shattered, and every destiny be activated. May they walk from this moment knowing they are chosen, loved, and never alone. Amen. Thank you for investing this hour with us. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to pour into you tonight. If this message has changed something in you, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to remember they're chosen. And keep coming back because your journey has just begun, and we're here to walk it with you. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are. You are chosen, you are loved, you are never alone. Go in peace, knowing that your greatest chapter is still being written.